Hello. Can you hear me?
She is.
Can you hear me, Marissa? This thing. Yes, ma'am. Not right this second. Nope. I don't hear anything. Mm-mm. Hey. Them's my peeps now. Yep. I don't think I'm doing anything weird, but maybe I am. Nope. Yeah, it's just me and Marissa. Hey. Da, da, da. I don't know who that is. Zach Kramer. Hello, Zach. Okay, so I see the stage. See Janet's behind.
Okay, now you let me know if you can hear this.
I hear that. I hear that. Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
You can hear me clearly now.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Yes, I'm going. I got it.
Okay, you do. Oh, yeah. She's got like one or two other. Okay. We're just hopping by. Look what I found. Hey.
Hey, Joe.
How's your cat?
Good. So y'all
Where's he
just
from? Rick?
Rick.
Yeah. Okay.
So y'all just flying through and
Yeah, we're gonna
keep
back
going.
off. He forgot his glasses.
Ah.
We're gonna get some coffee.
There you go.
I need my steps. Hey, Carol. Good. How are you? Yeah, I'm gonna head back too for Sam's. So I'll just keep coming up here, walking with Paul. Well, I'm sure a lot online. That's how it was with like presidential circles. Like 800 people online, 20 from. Oh. Well, they had a problem on stage hearing him too, so you can't hear him on
We
Zoom.
just worked on it.
Now you can hear it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Kay and I were.
Okay. Yeah, because Kate was like testing.
Mhm.
Hey, how are you? Yeah, Jill was saying you were just helping her buy a computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you employing?
Yeah. Thank you. They do a lot of student-facing meetings that are. I mean, I guess. But per change. Oh, this? You haven't seen this? Okay, so my laptop was like the machine that wasn't working. So they got me like the regular desktop. I said, but here's the problem. I use the laptop touchscreen to sign. I sign stuff all day long. I need something to sign. Oh, we'll get you like a little touch panel, whatever. I'll use it as a third monitor. I'm expecting something the size of like 11 or 12 inch thing, size of like, it's the same size as this. So I gotta angle it down so I can actually see the bottom like entrance of this thing. did. People look at it like, what is this? I'm like, you look like you're like an architect. Like, you do have like construction. There you go. That's right. All right, those are fake goods from school. Okay, so for what's his name? James letter. Clark's letter about
Okay. See you all.
space decisions.
Maggie, are you on now?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Maggie, can you text me now? This is how the volume has been for some of the people that have come up, so. She can hear me. We're good. Well, we need to go, in 5 minutes. 14 minutes, we're fine. I can't keep my glasses off because I'm not my glasses. Okay.
Okay, I can hear now, so that's good. Oh, look, it's Sam. Wonderful.
It'll be a long day, Maggie.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Bottom of the page. How many participants are there?
Mm-hmm. Amen, sister. I'll tell you. No.
It's 2.03.
Hello, hello, welcome. Glad to see y'all here. We're going to get started. I'm Janet Kistner. For those of you who I haven't met, I have the privilege of chairing the Provost Selection Advisory Committee, and I am delighted to welcome Dean Sam Huckaba from Arts and Sciences with us today. Before we hear from Dean Huckaba, let me just make a few general comments. One, really glad you're here and hope you ask questions. And if you do, we have mics set up on either side. So just come on up when you have a question and we will take them in that order. I have some questions also that were submitted online over the last few days. And so every now and then I'll take a break from your questions and ask a few of those questions as well. We're going to start with Dean Huckaba giving some opening remarks, and then I'll let you know when we go to questions, and then we're going to save the last 5 minutes or so for him to make some closing comments. And without any further ado, let me turn it over to you, Dean Huckaba.
Thank you, Janet, very much. Thank you all for taking the time to come here and to listen and allow me to share some of my ideas and answer questions as they come up. My name is Sam Huckaba, as you just heard. I've been Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences officially since 2012. And in the Dean's office a little bit longer than that because I was Associate Dean prior to that. Let me give you a little bit of background, quick introduction, a personal background. I'm a Midwesterner. I spent my formative years in 3 different states, living in 3 different states, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa. About the time that I became aware of things around me enough to be paying attention, we moved to Missouri. So that would be my fourth Midwestern state. Moved to Columbia, Missouri. That was my hometown. I attended middle school and high school in Columbia. I played baseball in high school. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. That didn't work out, so I chose a different path. The other thing about Columbia is it has a university in town, public institution, University of Missouri, very much like Florida State in a lot of ways, comprehensive and well-balanced. And I chose to attend the University of Missouri. I majored in mathematics, I minored in English, and both of those have served me well in my career in different ways, but had a very nice time there. When I graduated from the University of Missouri, I had to decide whether I was going to go into industry and go to work or go off to graduate school. I did have opportunities to work as an applied mathematician in the aerospace industry and also at Bell Labs. I chose instead, because the claw of academia had already started to grab me, I chose instead to go to graduate school. So I went to Purdue, where I studied mathematics. Purdue is in West Lafayette, which is in Indiana, making my 5th Midwestern state that I had lived in at that time in my life. Purdue was a great place for me. Finished my degree, and when I finished it, I headed south. My first job was the University of Kentucky in Lexington. Lexington's a beautiful place. It's horse country, so I learned a little bit about horse racing, mainly from the students I taught because everyone was tuned into it. I also experienced Rupp Arena. And when I had been in Indiana, I was introduced to basketball mania because it exists there. They call it Hoosier mania. High school basketball is is dominant, I would say there, as is college, but they used to televise the high school games, which was new for me when I was there. But even that didn't prepare me for watching a basketball game in Rupp Arena with 23,000 fans. So that was an experience that I'll never forget. While I was at Kentucky, I came to a conclusion that it wasn't maybe the best job for me. So I put out some applications, and one of them was here to Florida State. And fortunately, I was able to interview and get the job in the Department of Mathematics here at Florida State and moved to Tallahassee. And I have to say, when I got off the plane, I felt like I might be in the right place. It was warm. It was kind of like today. It was a beautiful campus. It's even more beautiful now than it was then, but it was beautiful. And it had been snowing in Lexington when I got on the plane. So everything aligned. I spent many years in the math department teaching, doing my research, working with graduate students, and kind of keeping my head down. I was very happy in that role. After I was promoted to professor, I began to, I guess, angle towards administration, not by choice, but it was happening. And so I made that move and found out that, well, maybe I'm well suited for this type of work. Another major change occurred after not that long after I had been promoted, when Don Foss, who was the dean at the time of the College of Arts and Sciences, asked me to be an associate dean. So I stewed on it for a while, went on up to be an associate dean, and really it was an eye-opening experience for me to finally take the blinders off and see what was going on across the College of Arts and Sciences and the campus, and also the whole campus, because you get that as well. Associate dean for a while, became dean, as I said, formally in 2012. And so about 10 years. Let me tell you a little bit about the College of Arts and Sciences since I've been dean, and just in general. So it is the largest college on campus. We have 9 science area departments, 7 humanities area departments, and 13 interdisciplinary centers, programs, and institutes on both sides, humanities and the sciences. We also offer 89 degrees. That is 89 possibilities for somebody to major in, both undergraduate and graduate. We have 9,200 undergraduate majors in the college, a number that changes every day because students change their majors. 1,800 or so graduate students across our departments, about 650 faculty members, and 200 staff members. We also, as the way that the college, the disciplines within the college, it turns out, deliver most of the general education requirements to the undergraduates on campus, and also a lot of the prerequisite material. So we actually teach almost half of the student credit hours on campus every year. Arts and sciences reach is farther than just within the college. We have heavy faculty participation in other places. For example, the Mag Lab, lots of faculty working at the Mag Lab. FCRR, Florida Center for Reading Research, is another that's outside the college. And it's mainly people from from education and from arts and sciences, but there's also college communication represented and social work as well. So there are lots of faculty there. And then the other one is the Marine Lab, which is down on the coast, and it is outside the college, but heavily populated by faculty members from biology and the earth sciences who do their work there. And the current director, who's new, came from FIU, I think was where he was before, has tenure in the Department of Biology. So a few things about the college. As Dean of Arts and Sciences, you know, it's been an energizing job from the beginning. It remains so for me. Over the 10 years, we hired over 200 new faculty members. And that's well balanced across the humanities and the sciences. And when you put that together with the attrition, which is always occurring, people retiring or leaving for one reason or another, we've gone up by about 11%. That actually happens to be right at the goal that I had set when I became dean. So I'm happy about that. We did reach that goal of increasing the number of, and I'm talking about tenured and tenure track faculty, to reach that goal, and we did so. We also have a lot of specialized faculty, about 75 specialized teaching faculty. We couldn't do this job without them. They are fantastic, good teachers, take the job seriously and generate a lot of student credit hours. We also have a lot of specialized faculty who are involved in research across the college. Some of them are paid on contracts and grants. Others are staff scientists paid on E&G. Couple of other things. We established the Dean's Postdoctoral Scholar Program. This is a program we fund about 30 postdocs across the College of Arts and Sciences. This is a program that made sense to me on several levels. It is a way to hire postdocs from the outside who might be people we'd be interested in for jobs, right? If we had an opening, they come in, they share their interests and energize our departments, those who have them, and they also teach. So we get some teaching out of them. It's a normal teaching load, and they're able to work on their research profile, which helps them when they go for jobs themselves, academic jobs. It's a little different on the science side than it is on the humanities side, in the sense, or at least in the lab sciences, in the sense that there already are postdocs historically that are paid off of grants to come in. We have a hybrid model for those who want to take part. We will bring in, we will share the cost in exchange for some teaching. A lot of new PhDs in the sciences want that experience because it helps them when they go out. A few other things, raised $65 million as dean, very successful, a great team in the college, doubled the ANS endowment. It is the largest endowment of any college on campus. We established the College of Arts and Sciences Travel Award Program. This is paid by private funds. We give out about 40 awards a year, 20 in the fall, 20 in the spring. It's a complement or a supplement, let's say, to the Provost's Travel Award Program that has been in place for a long time. And then the other thing I'll just mention briefly, one of the things that I wanted to do and succeeded at doing was overhauling the budget mechanism across the College of Arts and Sciences, the goal being to provide more autonomy for our departments and to be a little bit more transparent about how we distribute the funds. It's a large budget, 186 million overall. So the provost job, I think being the provost is a next natural step for me. I think I'm well trained for it. And I think that as dean, I've demonstrated a range of skills that I think are important for someone who's provost to be able to have. You need to be able to listen and learn. We have 18 colleges, more colleges than departments in arts and sciences. They're all doing their own thing. It is important for the provost to be able to spend the time and understand what are the needs across campus. So listening, learning, and trying to help. Building consensus is important. You can't do anything at a university, I don't think, effectively without building consensus. And so that's important. I think it's important to understand the cash flow. Most of what we try to do that's innovative, that's new, is going to require new resources. And so in order to provide that, I think it's crucial to be able to understand the nuances of a large budget and cash flow. And I think it's important to be able to make decisions, informed decisions, and to make them on a reasonable timeline. Be decisive, but flexible. I like to work hard and continuously learn. So I believe that I'm well suited for this. I think I'll stop there, Janet.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with one of the online submitted questions as some of you make your way to the microphone. This was a question submitted from a student. And the student asked, what is your understanding of the relation between diversity and excellence within a university? And how, in the role of provost, would you commit to encouraging excellence through diversity?
Well, first of all, I think balanced diversity strengthens the institution. It strengthens every unit on campus simply because we're here to serve the academic community. We certainly as administrators, but also as faculty, we serve a student base coming in, and that student base is diverse at a certain level. It's important that we have diversity as best we can to try to match that. It strengthens the institution. As far as what the provost can do, well, first of all, the provost can, and I think our current provost has done an outstanding job with this, is raise the profile of the importance of seeking diversity and constantly paying attention to it. I think that it is possible to make progress by providing resources at the important times when they're needed. I've certainly done that in the College of Arts and Sciences with when it comes to students directly to the questionnaire. I think I have participated in cost sharing on 6 different grant proposals in ways that I wouldn't otherwise, because there's a component in there to pay for the college to pay stipends for students who come in from underrepresented minorities. I made that commitment, and those have continued when those grants run out. It's the thing about a grant, it doesn't last often. If you're lucky, it'll last a long, long time, but often it doesn't. So that's one way that I've participated in the College of Arts and Sciences. I think the provost job, it's a different one. But I think paying attention to resources and seeing what we can do. We have a diversity task force with some statements that have been accepted. I think it's inherent on the provost to try to implement those. It's not an easy thing to implement some of them. For example, if you're trying to hire faculty members in a discipline where the pipeline is not producing the kind of pool you want, you have to work harder. You have to work much harder to broaden that pool and to pay attention to it. And the answer there, I said this in the interview, but there's no silver bullet to doing that, in my view. It takes everybody working hard and thinking about it. Smart people putting their mind on how can we expand diversity, and this is in the hiring and so on. The inclusion part is, I see it as a little bit more about the environment. And that again is a campus-wide issue. If we're going to be inclusive, it takes everybody. We have to be inclusive across the board. The provost can set the stage for that and can try to promote it, build consensus if necessary. And again, resources where it makes sense. But somehow we got to get the whole campus on board for an inclusive environment. And I think FSU does that very well, I should say, but you can always do it better. So those are my answers, some of them.
Oh, we have somebody coming to the mic. I meant to tell you all, when you come up, if you would just introduce yourself for the audience's sake.
Hi, Sam. I'm Tim Logan. I'm in your office. I'm one of your associate deans.
I know you well.
Yes. And I learned some things about you from your introduction, so that was really, really great. As you know, I'm part of a committee where we're evaluating the teaching evaluation process. There's a group of associate deans and faculty, and we're trying to understand and identify ways that we can improve the teaching evaluation for annual evaluations for promotion and tenure, and also trying to find ways to promote teaching effectiveness across the university. So my question is similar in some sense to the one that you got a minute ago. So FSU has made a lot of improvements in student success over the last several years, but improvements in teacher success haven't always kept pace. And in contrast, there's a lot of research over the last 10 or 15 years that show new methods and ways to really improve student engagement, learning, and a variety of student experience and teacher experience in the classroom. But a lot of these things are slow to adopt by research active faculty and even by specialized teaching faculty. And so the question from our committee is, as you move from dean of a college to provost of a university, how does your perspective on these kinds of problems and challenges change? And what role could or should you as provost play in incentivizing and promoting gains in teaching effectiveness, whether at the individual or departmental or college level?
Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, in the College of Arts and Sciences, it's a very different exercise to have that discussion in the humanities than it is in the sciences. And even within the sciences, it's very different depending on which type of, whether it's the life sciences or the physical sciences or the mathematical sciences. It shifts with each one, that kind of a conversation. I think that it's important. One of the things that, Tim, I know you and I have talked about that is important is to be looking at our benchmark courses in certain disciplines where you have a lot of students coming through prerequisite material. Those courses are not easy to teach. We have them in many departments, not just in arts and sciences, but everywhere. They're not easy to teach, and it's, in fact, I think easy to get into a routine. So how can we provide an incentive for the people who are running those courses to really pay attention to increasing the effectiveness, while at the same time making sure that the students are engaged and energized, because that's also important. Student input to the process is critical. So how do we do that? I think we've got some mechanisms in place that we've been trying in the college. Some of them have come from the provost's office. Joe and Rick and those people have promoted this, and I think they've worked, and also the Center for the Advancement of Teaching, Leslie, and that is to use learning assistants in those larger classes. I think that is a model that has shown to be successful in those classes. And the other piece for those, again, I'm back on the benchmark kind of courses that a lot of people take, to take a hard look at the curriculum, make sure we're teaching what we need to be teaching, not overdoing it, because sometimes there's a tendency, I think, to do that. I can say that because I taught calculus for many years, and I felt like we were teaching too much. Had many discussions, some of them heated, with my colleagues about, why does the syllabus have to be as full as it is? But anyway, these are subtleties that are discipline specific, And I think we look at that. Humanities side of campus, and again, in the college, is full of outstanding teachers. The concentration of teaching award winners is high in all of those departments. They just excel when they get in front of students. There are some courses that are like that, though. One of them is the writing courses in English. Was tough, very important. Every student has to take writing, a couple of semesters of it, if they don't test out of the first one. How do you deliver this in the best way? We did take advantage of wanting to decrease class sizes to cut them all to 19, which was, we felt, a move that made good academic sense, and a move that also had the effect of helping us with our metrics while giving those instructors a better size of class to deal with. When you get outside of the college and as a provost, you've got to be thinking of the entire campus. I frankly don't know the way courses are taught across campus. That's one of the things I would want to learn about if I'm going to have any effect and be able to provide a reasonable answer to a question like that. I know that some of our units, music, for example, they have a very specific way that they're teaching students to play instruments, a performance, say, or they're running a chorus. That I'm not sure what a provost could tell them that's going to be help them improve what they're doing. They're doing a fantastic job. You could say the same, I think, in a lot of the fine arts and in film. Film is a lockstep program. They don't need any disruption to what they're doing. So in some sense, I think your question, Tim, it doesn't have to do with the majors, but more the courses that are taken by most students in the large courses. And that a lot of that does fall back to the College of Arts and Sciences. I would be interested in hearing what the committee thinks about this. I know that task force has been going on a while, or I guess it's not a task force, it's a committee. There's a difference. Although there is a task in there that they're trying to solve. But I'd be interested in hearing from them. Thanks. Bonnie?
Good morning, Dr. Huckaba. My name is Bonnie Wright. I'm a senior grants analyst, and my question is, knowing that every time we lose a staff or faculty member, it costs the university money, what is the one thing that we are not doing that we should be doing to retain employees other than faculty, other than salaries? Thank you.
Well, I think you mentioned one of the big items, and that's salaries. We have to be thinking about that. What I would like to see, if we could figure out a way to do it, is a reasonable promotion path for staff. The incentive for a staff member to leave a position, even if it's staying on campus, they have a position in one department to go to another, simply because that's the only way you can advance. That's counterproductive sometimes. Sometimes it makes sense for people to move on, but it can be counterproductive. So I think if we could figure out a way to have a promotional path and across academic affairs for staff members, I think that would be of great value. Obviously, you can't just do that because it involves all the rest of campus, HR, all of the non-academic side of campus wouldn't necessarily have to look just like it, but you'd have to think about it. What is the promotional path? But I think that the staff support speaking of the College of Arts and Sciences, we couldn't do our job without the staff. We just shut it all down. We couldn't do it. I think that the staff members are not paid enough. I think that for the most part, there's satisfaction and happiness, but there are pockets where it doesn't exist. And I think that's gotten worse during COVID for various reasons. The other thing that COVID has brought to us is the possibility to work remotely. That's a very different model for us. How are we going to deal with that moving forward as an institution? We're going to have to address it, especially if we have people who are filling staff jobs and being recruited from outside where they can work remotely. How are we going to deal with that? We don't want to lose good staff people for that reason. And so which of our jobs, again, in academic affairs can be done remotely or be done with a partial telework environment? One thing that we've seen a lot of in the college is student advising, where with providing advice to students, they seem to like it. The students I'm talking about, calling in or Zooming in. They don't, the big lines out the door in Longmire just aren't there right now, even though they could be there. The students could come and just drop in. Just hasn't been happening. So that's an area where we've broadened out, I think, and become more flexible, let's say. You mentioned grants analysts. That's anything involving cash flow. It's just crucial to be able to walk down the hall and talk to you, Bonnie, about if you have a question about your grant. So you wouldn't want to destroy that, but at the same time, does it have to be fully face-to-face? These are questions. These are involved officer research as well, moving forward. So anyway, I hope I've addressed your question there. I think that I don't think there's a single answer, to be honest with you. I think we have to pay attention to our staff. I will say one more thing. We have been hiring a lot of faculty members. I mentioned a bit ago, we went up by 10% in the college. Guess what? We didn't go up by 10% in staff. So when you bring in more faculty, you add more workload on staff members, and you've just got to be careful about that. Similarly, when we bring in more students, we add more workload to those all important advisors and academic coaches around campus, who, by the way, are crucial to student success. We wouldn't be having these nice awards that we're seeing without those staff members and their participation. So, Gary.
Hi, I'm Gary Tyson. I'm a computer science professor in the College of Arts and Science. A few years ago, I was asked by members of the Board of Governors what I thought of the system overall. My answer to them was, I thought they made the provost position in our state system less desirable than it was in other systems. And the primary reason for that was annual performance-based funding and the need to go after state dollars each year competitively with the other universities. I was much happier when we did the presidential search with McCullough, that the metric that they were using for the next 5 years for this university was a measure of change. It was to double research funding, but it was a broader, longer term, more visionary goal. So I guess the question I have for you, and I think coming from arts and science is a very good place to come from, where you get these change agents, you have a goal to transform some aspect of the university. And you compare that with, or you balance that with the desire to retain what's special about FSU, which I don't think performance-based funding does. One of the things I told them was, I think it homogenizes the system, and that's not what we want. How do you handle the visions, the occasionally competing visions in a longer term environment, just to make it a little more complicated, in an environment where performance-based funding is still going to have a lot of your daily time looking at next year's number?
Right. Yeah. So thank you for the question. That's an astute observation of yours, and I'm glad you mentioned that at the Board of Governors when you were participating there. Well, first of all, I don't think it's a new thing to have to balance metrics off against other measures of quality. We've been doing that since performance funding and preeminence funding and the emphasis on US News and World Report rankings started. We've been doing that, I think, across campus, certainly in the College of Arts and Sciences, simply because we care about quality and we care about it on a national scale. So we've been dealing with that. I would say, Gary, that we cannot ignore the metrics. We have to pay attention. We have to have in place and continue to keep in place the steps we've made to be successful. Student success, lower class sizes, graduation rates. These are important to the institution, even if they make the provost's job harder. Some of them we don't have very much control over. Some of those metrics, like what is the salary of our students when they graduate, right? The profile of your institution is going to be the biggest driver of that. And we don't want to change what FSU is. I certainly wouldn't want to. I mentioned when I got off the plane from my interview, somehow I felt instinctively the balance in this place, across between the sciences, humanities, fine arts, social sciences, professional schools. And that's before I even knew anything. Somehow I felt it. And that's just been confirmed over and over again. So whatever we do with metrics, we've got to preserve all of that. I think the very interesting piece of your question to me with our new president is, if we're going to try to double funding, grant funding, how do we do that and keep FSU being FSU? It's a challenge, but it's a challenge we have to meet. The thing about grant funding, first of all, to raise grant funding, to even get grant funding, you have to be in a discipline where you need a lot of grant funding to do your work. That's not true. That's only true of a fraction of campus, maybe 25%. Just made that number up, but it's probably not that far off. Most of the disciplines, even if there is funding, it's not very large, right? And because what you need is time. You need time and maybe modest resources to do your job, whatever it is, and try to push forward. So when we talk about increasing the amount of funding, we're really talking about trying to build pockets where we can get larger grants that are needed to do what we're trying to do. Good example that's been in place for 30 years or 40 years, the Mag Lab, right? If you take the Mag Lab and split it into a bunch of different individuals doing similar things, it's not going to bring in $40 million a year. It just isn't going to happen. The sum is greater than the parts. Of course, we've got the big magnets that draw people, yeah, good. And from all over the world to use the high magnetic fields. It's a crown jewel. Took a long time to get that off the ground and to get it where it is, but it's there. We've got other examples though around campus. I think that to try to make progress, we need to take a look at that model. It doesn't have to be as large, obviously, as what we've got at the Mag Lab. That's a major national laboratory. But we can bring people together, and it doesn't just have to be scientists, core scientists. It could be from the social sciences, it could be from the humanities and fine arts as part of it, to try to build something where the sum is greater than the parts and will qualify for funding. So that's one answer. We have a couple of things going on. Data science I've talked to you a lot about that, Gary. Data science is ubiquitous, I think, now across any institution. It varies in its rigor and in its the degree of messiness, let's say, because in some units, some disciplines, to try to that are generating data to try to sort it out means very much a different thing than it does if you're looking at astrophysics, where the data sets are enormous, or if you're looking at genomics. It's going to be different all over campus. But I think it is true that every discipline is generating data, looking at it, trying to integrate it into what it's doing, and is tip of the iceberg. So I think we can build data science to a a central thing. I think it's important, crucial, I would say, to build the data science infrastructure on campus in a way that serves the needs of the campus community. That's a tall order, but it starts with, and discussions underway. Laurel's been involved. Laurel Fulkerson, VP for research right now, has been involved with the big health data initiative. The goal there to try to build something that will help the health sciences have a place where they can go with their data, get advice, consult, have some storage, security, et cetera. Well, guess what? We need that all over the place. We need probably a data science infrastructure center where we can provide things like consultation to researchers and students as well, who need it. Equipment, we've got some equipment, RCC, Research Computing Center, that came out of arts and sciences, by the way, but now it's a university thing. It's gonna probably have to grow, and also to store and manage data. So data science is another angle that I think feeds this. I think we have probably a half a dozen collaborative efforts just in the College of Arts and Sciences that are being discussed. All of them are things we want to do. I think that is very important. It has to be something that makes academic sense and that we want to be doing. Our faculty members want to be doing. The faculty members are going to be doing all the work, along with their teams and their postdocs and their students. If it's in the sciences, it's always going to involve students. So how do we make these choices so that we can make some progress towards doubling the amount of grant funding? The final thing that I think we can do, probably haven't fully looked at and played at, hasn't fully played out, is to take a hard look at the way we report our expenditures, research expenditures. You report them, and it's easy to report, just turn around the federal funding and report it that way. That's kind of the obvious way to do it. We might be missing something, and we might be spending a lot more money on research than we realize. And the president's already talked about that. Type of thing he did at Harvard, and I think it's important. So those are some answers, Gary. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Paul Marty, professor in the School of Information. Speaking of the importance of information and data literacy, we're all in on that too. And I think that's certainly something that could bring this university together. But that's not my question though. I serve as chair of the Honors Program Policy Committee for the Faculty Senate. And I also serve as chair of the Faculty Steering Committee for the Innovation Hub. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in common in both of those committees is the value that our students get from taking courses from multiple disciplines. And I would love to hear your thoughts about what we could do here at FSU to promote interdisciplinary education, particularly among our undergraduate students. How do we help students take courses outside the silos of their majors? And how do we reward faculty and departments that offer courses that transcend disciplinary boundaries?
Yes, thank you for that question. That's one I haven't thought about very much, frankly. But my instinct reaction is, first of all, we talked about diversity and inclusion before. Academic diversity is important, increasingly so. And I think we do a favor for our students if we can allow them to spread around. We have to remember that there are 120 or so hours to graduate, and there's some electives in there. So on the one hand, is already in place. The electives that students can take, they can do what they want. In my case, I took extra English just because I wanted to read. And that was years and years ago. Doesn't quite fit what you're talking about. You're probably talking about taking courses that are going to help in an entrepreneurial way, perhaps, or at least in a professional development way. But it can hit whatever the goals of students happen to be. I think the challenge is that the majors that we have on campus, which are controlled, those requirements are controlled by the faculty who are offering those majors, don't leave a lot of room for students who maybe are getting that degree to go and take a course, in some other area, maybe an entrepreneur, a course out of entrepreneurship, or maybe it's a computing course, or maybe it's a business course. It could be anything that might fit those needs. So it's really on the faculty of those that are controlling those majors to have those discussions. Is this important to us? Is this something that our students want? If it is, how do we provide that? How do we make that happen? Provost can be part of that conversation, and perhaps after learning the important features, be able to articulate, here's what we should be trying to do. And the innovation hub, since you mentioned it, that's of course an outlet for students to be doing all kinds of things. Fits into the entrepreneurship piece that our new president has been talking about as well, to provide students with a path maybe to get involved in entrepreneurial activities, or just to broaden out. One of the things we fund, I helped fund using college resources in the College of Arts and Sciences, is the iGEM competition. Unfortunately, I don't know what iGEM stands for, but it doesn't matter. It's people from across campus, students getting together for pursuing a project and in national competition and taking it there. And these things cost a little bit of money to get them going. And I think it's great. The students love it. They absolutely love it. And we've got, the students that we're recruiting to campus are getting better all the time. They're fantastic, these students. And they want to be challenged in ways like this. So Innovation Hub is one way that can happen. It can happen within departments too. The action takes place at the departmental level. Let's face it, that's where most of the action is taking place, or in interdisciplinary programs where you can do these things. So it's a matter of having faculty being involved in the conversation and buying in. So it's a consensus building thing again. Thank you for the question.
Rick Burnett, Associate Provost and Interim CIO. You've talked around this, I may try to catalyze a little bit better. You're talking about innovation and the want to move in that direction. You've talked about big data and the need to build our strength there. What do you think about the role of IT in leading innovation, both on the academic instruction, academic learning, as well as research and commercialization?
So I think it can play a critical positive role. That's my quick answer. I think that IT, the challenge to IT is that it has to wear a lot of different hats. And Rick is learning that. I'm sure if you hadn't already learned it and already knew it. Because IT, we rely on our IT for all of the business going on around campus, all of the student records, all of the communication that's taking place, security, and security is front and center. We haven't talked about cybersecurity at all, but all institutions have to tighten that up. That falls on IT right now. Very important. It seems to me like that's a growth area, Rick, where to involve IT more fully in these pieces. I think it's communication. We already have a partnership through the RCC. That's the Research Computing Center, again, rolled out of the College of Arts and Sciences. We put it together as a replacement for the supercomputer that long ago existed on campus, and it became a dinosaur. So where would we go for high performance computing, HPC? We built something in the College of Arts and Sciences for the core sciences that needed it, and set up a modular system where they could buy time on it and so on. And that now has rolled out to serve the whole institution, simply because it was needed to serve more than just the science areas. It needed to serve medicine and engineering and whoever else needs high performance computing at the time. Now it's expanded. Again, working with Laurel closely, trying to expand it so that it does a little bit more than just HPC, because HPC is one thing. There are lots of different needs for computing, and but it's small. It's small, and that's our partnership right now. I think it's an opportunity really to look at it, Rick, is I don't have answers, but if we're going to be living in the data era, and we're at the tip of the iceberg of it, for the rest of our lives, let's build the infrastructure, and partnering is important. I've always had a good relationship with IT, with Michael, Jane, and now you, Rick. And I think that the other deans similar, but the communication can probably be heightened up so that we all understand what are the challenges, how can IT help, and at the same time look at new opportunities that might exist involving education, like the one you mentioned. And the final thing I'll say about that, I don't know if I've said this yet, but I think it's just incredibly important. We've got in Westcott, different vice presidents' offices. They need to be talking to each other frequently. And I'm not suggesting that they aren't. I'm just saying that is crucial to do anything like this, because IT hits all of them one way or another. Similarly with research, research goes hand in hand with academics. You can't separate them. The faculty members are the ones with their research programs who are generating the grant funding that's funding the Office of Research and helping fund other things around campus. They go hand in hand, while those faculty members have an academic component that's driving everything they do. So everyone needs to be talking together and working as partnerships, including IT.
Take one of the questions that
Okay.
were submitted to us online. There have been recent news reports concerning faculty accused of sexual misconduct. What will you do to change the culture at FSU so that this conduct is not tolerated? Please include actions that can be taken.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would say that it isn't tolerated, and we have taken actions. I think in every college you would see that. Certainly in the College of Arts and Sciences, we've taken actions. It's not the type of thing you publicize when you take that action, right? It's a delicate situation, but there are mechanisms in place. We have low tolerance, zero tolerance for that. I think if anything, we've gotten better over time. How can we improve? Well, you can always improve these things. You can always do it. I think that probably the best first step at improving that is to redouble our campaign to I'll use the word educate. It's not the right word, but to have the tough discussions that involve all faculty about the important, first of all, the zero tolerance and the importance of professional behavior at all times, and the very severe penalties that exist for individuals who break policy. So I think those three are important messages to share with everyone. It is one of the challenges at doing that comprehensively is that in the academy, we tend to build our own our own environments to do our research, to have our own graduate students, and it can become closed. And sometimes necessarily so. If you're running a lab or if you have a group working on a project, especially if you have funding for it, the faculty members under a lot of pressure to produce, not to mention annual evaluations and promotion and tenure and everything else. That it has the tendency to create pockets all over the place where people aren't getting the same message on something as important as this. We do have faculty meetings, we have faculty senate, we have different ways that we can share information, but reaching the entire campus is what's important because it only takes one to cause severe problems for the institution. And so we have to be comprehensive in our messaging.
Now, don't be shy about coming up. I'm going to do another one of the submitted questions, but don't be shy about coming up to a mic. Here's another one, submitted question. In your opinion, what's the most pressing matter that the Office of the Provost needs to address, and how would you handle it if offered the position?
Well, I think that's a tough question because I think there's more than one, perhaps equally important things, but I'll focus on one. I think that it's important for our colleges to have some flexibility to be able to do the things they want to do. And I'm talking about budget flexibility and to have a mechanism in place where colleges can respond to incentives to try to do some of the things we're wanting to do as an institution. For example, we talked about collaborative research. We talked about trying to build groups that can succeed at bringing in larger amounts of grant funding. We talked about, we didn't talk about this, but I'll throw it out, creating revenue streams that are perhaps not present right now in the system. All of these things, I think it's important that because they're not going to happen. They're not going to happen unless they happen at the unit level. That's just the way it works on a university campus. So if we can figure out a way to provide incentives, and this is tied into the budget and looking hard at the budget, incentives for individual colleges to pursue things like this. I think that's a big issue. I won't call it a problem because I don't know. I'm not in the provost's office. I don't know what's in place now so much. All I can do is talk from the perspective of the College of Arts and Sciences. We have an enormous budget, which gives me some flexibility to do certain things. But there are times when I wish if we did this, we had an incentive that we could take advantage of to be able to help our departments get involved in this type of thing. So that's what I'm talking about, that type of incentive. I'll just leave it at that. I think there are lots of issues that, and always will be. That's nothing against previous leadership anywhere. It's a constantly moving target to be excellent. And especially when you're continuing to get better every single year, which is what we've been doing since I got here.
This questioner had a follow-up about what's being done efficiently in the office of the provost and what can we improve on? So if you care to elaborate on that.
What's being done efficiently? Yeah. Well, I think lots of things are being done efficiently, I will say. Yeah. I mean, certainly the Office of Faculty Development and Advancement is doing an outstanding job of handling all the things that need to be handled. No, I think the Provost's office did really fantastic work in helping align the university towards these metrics that we talked about before, and provide the information. Because again, the colleges did the work and the departments, but the leadership from the provost's office at helping define what are we trying to do. And so that me as a dean could look at it and say, all right, I've got a list of things I'm doing over here and I'm not going to stop doing them. How can I merge this in a way that makes sense? Hard to do that without leadership from the provost's office. And so I think that was fantastic. I think that the provost office recently has done a great job of recognizing the breadth of excellence across the campus. I think that is in fact one of the jobs of the provost and the president to do that. Some, areas of great accomplishment are easier to highlight than others, just by the nature of what they do. The balance, though, is what's really important. And it's what makes 70,000 students want to apply to FSU and come here, because they want that experience. They want that balanced campus that we have. We don't lean too far one way or the other. And I always tell that to the faculty members who are coming through that we're recruiting. We're recruiting on a bunch of open positions this year. And so we've been meeting with a lot of candidates, associate deans. I'm sure are frazzled at the moment because it's the clock has been pushed, earlier and earlier every year. And when we're bringing people in and interviewing them and trying to hire them because it's more competitive all the time. And we're trying to hire the best faculty all the time that we can. But that's what I always tell these candidates is, look, this is a really nicely balanced campus. We have great fine arts in this building and next door, College of Music. You can go see a musical event almost any night of the week. Social sciences is fantastic. We have a film school, which is highly decorated. The College of Arts and Science is fantastic. And we are growing in the health fields and health sciences. That involves a lot of different units, right? I mentioned communications involved in that, communication disability and so on over there. Social work is involved in that as well, as is nursing. We have a new dean of nursing who's just really, hit the ground running pretty hard and it's very impressive. And of course, the med school. Anyway, all of these things I think are examples of the balance that we have across campus. And I think the provost's office has done a good job of pointing that out and celebrating it, and can do a good job of making sure that we keep it.
I'm going to ask one more question
Okay.
from the submitted ones and then leave you a few minutes to close us out. This came from a staff member. We have seen with the pandemic that the digital divide or the difference between those that have access to adequate technology and those that don't severely impacted the success of our students, especially first generation and BIPOC students. What's your plan for bridging this gap and improving student success for all students?
Mm-hmm. So I think the pandemic had a negative effect across the board, really, as far as I can tell. Mental health issues spiked among students and faculty, not just students. So it really had an impact on our product. As far as what the provost's office can do, what the campus can do, because it's a campus-wide issue. I think we need to pay attention to it for sure. We probably don't have enough capacity in treating mental health issues on campus. I think that's yet another area where we probably need resources to be able to expand that, use what we have. We have offices that are trying very hard. In fact, I'll mention some a little bit off the question, but one group, and I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the outfit, but the word psychological is in it, serves the whole campus. We've met with them, and they're going to make this team of mental health experts are going to make visits to our different departments simply to talk to faculty about what do you do? How do you handle a situation where a student has issues that come to you with issues that are mental health issues? How do you respond? What do you do? And what is your role as an instructor? Because a lot of faculty members they're just not used to doing that. I think we need to expand that because COVID has brought on all kinds of issues. The word digital divide was mentioned there. I think probably what that refers to is the out of balance access to technology that exists. That that's an issue. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but that is as front and center. IT be involved in that one for sure. How can we bridge that gap? But back on the mental health issue, I think it supersedes COVID. I think that as we move along here, as time goes along, we have students that we're bringing in who are very competitive, coming from competitive environments, seeking to achieve. There's a lot of pressure on these students who are coming in, and the existence of easily accessible social media and fast moving information really has a huge impact on all of society. As students, it'd be hard to be a student these days because they're all on social media and it's just too easy to fall into a trap. So I think we probably need more resources in the mental health area to be thinking about these things, and it involves digital divide, but also digital everything, because that's where we are. Last thing I'll say is one of my roles here as dean is I've been serving on something called Cyber Florida. This is a statewide governing council called Cyber Florida. It exists down at USF, and the focus on this, it's called the Board of Governors, and they want to involve each university. So I'm representing Florida State. The couple of things that they're really focusing on in all of the meetings that we've had are cybersecurity, because that is front and center for all of us. It's kind of, I would say, the invisible thing. It's not really invisible if you read about it, but it's invisible in the sense that it could happen at any moment. And affect everything that we're doing. So that's one of the things. But the second thing is what they have called digital literacy and the focus on it. There are a lot of social science and policy individuals on this board, which has heightened my appreciation for what they do, what takes place in policy and in the social sciences. They're focused more on digital literacy or digital there's another word that I'm not remembering. It's how do you conduct yourself in a digital environment in a civilized way. This is something that I think will down the road be part of our educational piece to try to help students who are coming in different than I came into a university, having, many of them full engagement in social media, and suddenly they're in a classroom. So there's probably ways that we can add to our educational product that will be a positive for those students. So.
Thank you. We have just about 5 minutes left, so
Good.
I welcome you to make some closing comments.
Well, thank you so much. The time went by quickly for me. I hope it did for you. I like to work hard, and I like to pursue positions where I can take advantage of my natural curiosity, which is one of the reasons I loved becoming dean and getting into the dean's office, is that it allowed me an opportunity to do that. I never would have guessed it when my head was buried in a math book for 17 years in the math department. But in fact, it's there. And I think going to the provost job is exponentiating that experience to hit the whole campus. So for me, that would be one of the pleasures of the job. I am a hard worker. I try not to be a workaholic. My wife keeps me under control, who's here. Thank you for attending this and listening to me. It's not always good to be a workaholic, but sometimes it is. And when you're trying to learn what people are up to and how you can help them. I think the next provost will have a significant role in helping lead FSU to greater heights. We don't have crystal balls. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We can't do everything that our faculty want to do, but we can do a lot of things. And the provost is going to be centrally involved in these things. I would consider it a privilege to be in that role, and I would work tirelessly to try to make that happen. That's all I have.
I want to thank you for your time, not only today, but in the weeks leading up to today. Very much appreciate it. And a special thanks to all of you for being here on today, the last day of classes. Yay. I really appreciated your being here and your questions. Have a good one.